Monday Night Live from Ohio. Welcome to Talking Head with my co host, Devin, who is our
Hey,
fact checker, checks everything out, makes sure we got lots of stuff to talk about and things that we don't really want to talk about, but we will be talking about them because he wants us to talk about them, which makes it complicated to not talk about them when he constantly wants us to talk about them. So therefore, we talk about them. Now, does that make any sense, ladies and gentlemen? That is typically the expression that we get from
sounds about
Donald
right.
Trump. That's the Donald Trump answer. Says a lot and then doesn't say anything. All right, Deb, go. Fill
All
us in
right.
on what's been happening over the weekend.
Quite a bit, actually. So we are just sort of realizing the scope of the issues with the latest North Korea U.S. summit, where Donald Trump was not able to reach any type of deal and walked away from it. Um, and, it took him a few days to give him credit, but I knew eventually he would. He is now placing the blame on the Democrats and said that the Michael Cohen, uh, you know, open committee interview or, where they were, that was on the Wednesday, the same day or the day before he would go meet with Kim Jong-un. And he said that distracted him. That it was a shame and it was a sham and he's a liar and that's what kind of killed the deal. So he's blaming the Democrats for that. And yet, it's coming out again. I mean, this was announced before, but it's coming out kind of again because they're canceling any future ones as well. Is the U.S. South Korean war games they used to do will no longer be done. And we have a former GOP House Intelligence Chairman saying that the U.S. will, quote, get nothing for Trump's decision to end Korea war games.
Correct.
So not only did we get nothing from North Korea, our intelligence agencies are saying that they are still very much producing weapons there, that they have not dismantled any of their nuclear capabilities. We have stopped the war games in addition to that. He's saying it's to save money. I don't believe it. It's...
No, wait, hold it. He's not lying about that. He's saving money because he needs to put it on the wall. So get it right.
Oh, okay.
He's saving
okay, so he has to take that money, put it elsewhere. Okay,
yeah,
makes sense.
That $1 billion he's going to apply to the wall. By the way, OTC, how are you? Deb says hi too.
Hi, OTC.
Don't say it so sexy. Give him the wrong message.
Ooh. So in addition to that, North Korean stuff, that's going to continue onwards. That's kind of fading in the background. Today, a very explosive, super detailed report came out about essentially the White House and its ties and how far they go with Fox News.
Ties with, hold it. Ties with Fox News?
Donald Trump? Could you believe it?
Oh my God.
So let me break down a few points.
I never would have come to that conclusion.
I know. What? It's crazy. Roger Ailes, who is now deceased, was then CEO of Fox News, reportedly gave Donald Trump debate questions before a Republican debate, back in early 2016. It is the same exact thing that they accused Hillary Clinton getting from CNN. It's like the old saying that
she got caught and he didn't.
Exactly. And things that Trump accuses other people of doing, more than likely not, are because he himself is doing it or did it.
All right, hold it. Hold it for a second. You remember the big issue with the email servers, that she had a private email server in her home?
Yes.
Okay. Now we find out later that Kirshner and his wife have private email servers, and they were not
Private emails, yes.
private emails doing the same thing Hillary did. Only
Correct.
they weren't criminal.
And the continued hypocrisy of it all is just, it's staggering, really. You know, but there's a lot, and I'm not going to be able to cover it all because I highly recommend people go read. It's in the New Yorker today. It's quite long, but it has so many things in it.
Is there a link to
you
it?
know, yeah, I can link you. I'll put it in the I'll throw it in the chat in a second.
Yeah.
Let me just get through some of this stuff.
Sorry to interrupt you. Excuse me for
Other
interrupting
things
you.
that were
I'm
covered
sorry
in
to
this
interrupt
article,
you.
and then I'll get
Excuse
to
me for
like the
interrupting you.
big thing. Is Fox News had details of the Stormy Daniels hush money. They had that report before the election.
And what happened to that
And
report?
they killed it. Sorry about that, Bill. They killed it. Sorry about that. They had that report before the election, and they killed it. It's kind of like the catch and kill thing that the National Enquirer was doing. Is they were buying stories up for Donald to benefit Donald before the election. So we had that. In addition to that, we had supposedly Jared Kushner, who you referenced earlier, has been talking to the Fox News chairman, Rupert Murdoch, every day and asks him for advice, and they've become essentially best friends. You know, and there's nothing inherently wrong with some of these things, but it's just the continued almost state propaganda that Fox News has become.
Basically, it's the Trump White House, and Fox News are married.
Yes, exactly. And then pretty much the biggest bombshell, and I'll get into that now, is Trump directed Gary Cohn to pressure the DOJ, the Department of Justice, to block the AT&T Time Warner deal.
No.
President Trump reportedly directed his former economic advisor, Gary Cohn, to pressure the Justice Department to block the AT&T Time Warner merger, according to the report in the New Yorker. In an explosive new investigation into the relationship between the Trump White House and Fox News, the magazine reported new details that contradict the administration's assurances that Trump had no role in the Justice Department's lawsuit trying to stop the merger. Citing an unidentified, quote, well-informed source, the New Yorker reported that in the summer of 2017, months before the Justice Department filed its antitrust lawsuit, Trump called Cohen and then Chief of Staff John Kelly into the Oval Office and told him that he wanted to, quote, make sure the Justice Department's lawsuit seeking to block the merger was filed. I've been telling Cohen to get this lawsuit filed and nothing's happening, Trump told Kelly, according to the report. I've mentioned it 50 times and nothing's happened. I want to make sure it's filed. I want that deal blocked. And the reason he wanted it blocked so badly was to get at CNN. That this was in his opinion, a way to hurt CNN. And it is exactly those abuses of power that are not only impeachable, but need to be dealt with.
But Donald is such an honest individual. He would never do any of this. Oh, wait a minute. I have a call. Wait a minute. I have a call here. I have a call here from Sean Hannity. Oh, hi, Sean. How are you? Hey, yeah, no, you say that Donald has been telling the truth all along and that you have nothing to do with the White House and that Fox is not in bed with the Trump administration? Oh, okay. It's just, wait a minute. You said something about it's just illegal employees hired by Fox News that apparently are changing the sheets in the White House up in Trump's bedroom. And they keep hearing all these rumors. Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much for the call. Have a nice night. Bye bye. Well, there's the news
Yeah,
for you, folks.
It's like mind-boggling that these things continue to happen and we're not doing anything about them.
Well, I think it's like this. I don't think we're not doing anything about them. I think that what's happening is a good prosecutor gets a hold of some good information and doesn't know what to do with it. And then it slowly develops its case. Okay? And as a result of defying and then putting all the ducks in the line, then you spill it out. And then the American people say, okay, there's too much.
Yeah. And I think it's fair that you need a full and complete story if you're going to go, especially after the sitting president. You can't have just little nuggets of, oh, this seems like he's guilty of something. You need more than that.
Well, not only that, but you got one other problem. Donald has made it a point of actually stating these falsehoods. So it's very hard to turn around and say, I never said that. I never made that comment. That's lies. It's fake news because all they do is play the tape and say, but here it is, Mr. President. This is what you said. And that's Trump's worst enemy. Most good guys, they send out like someone like, he's a private attorney and let him make a fool of himself and then can turn around and say, I didn't know what he was going to say. I didn't know he said that.
But just this is breaking news that I didn't cover as Ben Carson says he will step down after Trump's first term ends. I'm sure all the Ben Carson fans are really disappointed and sad to hear this news.
Well, how can you step down from a job that you've never really done?
Exactly. That's a great question. What has he done? He's done nothing with HUD. But he's stepping down after the first term. I mean, he's going to lose his job anyway. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. We were talking about the Justice Department earlier, and former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker quits. Ex-acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker quietly left the Justice Department over the weekend, according to multiple reports.
Woo!
Whitaker's abrupt departure came Saturday, days after new AG William Barr was sworn in. The former Iowa federal prosecutor has served as ex-Attorney General Jeff Sessions' chief of staff, and his role was reportedly to be President Trump's, quote, eyes and ears in the Justice Department. Whitaker was also a staunch defender of presidential power and believed in the expansive use of executive authority.
All right, let me ask you a question. Does that come as a surprise? I mean, we knew that.
It does a little bit because there was a report out a few days ago that he got a new job. And now we're hearing that he's quitting. So it makes me believe that he was fired by William Barr.
And I believe that the House Democrats will pull him back in for more testimony.
Oh, they've already said it. Yes. I mean, that's what they want to do.
It'll be very hard for him to claim executive privilege now.
Well, we'll have to see, but I agree. A follow-up with some of the trade wars that were going on with China and stuff. Trump's trade war cost Americans $1.4 billion a month last year, according to a new report. A spat of protectionist policies with trading partners reduced real U.S. income by $1.4 billion a month at the end of 2018, according to a new study by economists at the New York Federal Reserve, Princeton, and Columbia.
All right, now let's take that 1.4, multiply it by 12, and what
Well,
do we
well, Bill, I have, it's more than that. So,
It's 15 billion.
Bill, using official data on prices and quantities of imports, they found American consumers and businesses footed the bill following the 283 billion worth tariffs the Trump administration levied on major economies last year, while overseas companies paid little to nothing. So what it's saying, this report, is that the trade wars continue to hurt us at every level and hurt the overseas companies very little.
See, that's a big surprise.
Although I did read where they're saying that China and the US are close to a trade deal. If that'll be a good trade deal, who knows? Probably not. In some non-political news, for a quick second, just to break things up, a HIV positive man in Britain has become the second known adult to be cleared of the AIDS virus after he received a bone marrow transplant from an HIV-resistant donor.
Good news.
There was a report a couple years back that this happened with another gentleman who received, he had HIV, and then I believe it was leukemia or something like that he had to have a bone marrow transplant. And the gentleman that donated the bone marrow, something in his genetics made it HIV resistant. After the bone marrow transplant, he was HIV free or AIDS free. And this is obviously the second gentleman to have gone through this. But there is some apprehension here because a bone marrow transplant is a very serious, very almost dangerous procedure. It's not something you could just have done to cure AIDS. But there is hope that they can replicate that HIV resistance in a way that it helps all patients.
Well,
and I think there is hope that we're close to a cure.
Here's the thing. Here's the key thing. With a bone marrow transfer, the bone marrow makes the white blood cells, which are the antibodies that protect your immunity system. Okay. In order to do a bone marrow transplant, you have to give the person chemotherapy and kill the bone marrow that's in their body right now. And that's the danger, that they are losing their immunity system and can contract some other diseases and end up dying before the bone transplant marrow is put into their system and their system regenerates new antibodies and protects them again. And that's the danger, and that's what you're right. But here's an interesting thing that I find. AIDS has been around since about 82. Okay, 1982. And cancer's been around for 75 years, and we still don't have any kind of a virus or any kind of a serum to block out any kind of cancer, any kind.
That's sort of true, but also sort of not true, Bill. And we've talked about this before. Okay, so when you're fighting HIV or AIDS, you're tackling a single disease in the body. And if you could figure out how it replicates itself in the body, you could then treat it. And that's why we do have a lot of good treatments out there that prolong the lives of patients for many, many years. Many famous people living with AIDS today have lived 30, 40 years.
Correct.
The difference between that and cancer is not one single disease in the body. It's multiple mutations in multiple different ways happening throughout the body. And as you treat those diseases with many different treatments, we're not just using chemo and radiation anymore. We've got a lot of really cool, exciting things happening. Programming the immune system to specifically target cancer. We're doing essentially nanoparticles injected into cancer to target it at that level, the nano level. The problem is cancer then mutates and that treatment no longer is effective. And it keeps doing that. So you're trying to fight something that is actively fighting back and changing. But it's not true to say that we haven't gotten a lot better in some cancers. One, early detection in certain cancers usually leaves you with a very good prognosis. If you catch it early enough, you're usually seeing people live a full, healthy life having gone into remission. The big issue in this country was twofold. One, it's the health insurances and, the expense of having cancer, and even, proactive investigation or proactive, yearly screenings. So like a mammogram, colonoscopy, etc. I think some of those things we need to lower the age that is the recommended age to start having those things done. I think some people, especially things like colon cancer, they're waiting too long to have those procedures done.
Yeah, most of the time they're looking at 50 and over, when maybe they should reduce it to 40 and over.
Absolutely. I would even say with the colonoscopy, I think you should have your first one at 35. And I've had one done. They're not fun. But if they catch colon cancer early enough, if they catch breast cancer early enough, etc., it is, in most cases, again, there's a lot of cases that's not true, regardless of when they catch it. But a lot of cases, they are able to treat you, and your prognosis is pretty good. Of course, there's some rare cancers, and then there's some cancers that are not symptomatic until very late stages, like liver cancer, pancreatic cancer, etc., that there is no test there that is routine that's going to discover those things. So those would be looking more at improving the actual treatments after the fact.
Well, my mother had a double mastectomy. In other words, she had breast cancer and it spread to the other breast, and they removed both of the breasts, and she made a full recovery and never, she ended up dying of old age and Alzheimer's. Okay. But the point of the matter is that she defeated cancer, and this is going back to the 60s. Okay. So, this is, far removed, and we didn't have those things like, I'm a breast cancer survivor. Okay. Nobody knew, I didn't even know about it.
And then that's really helped is not only it helps the people with cancer, but the sort of acknowledgement that there are cancers out there that are finally being talked about, and people don't feel as alone, and they're checking their body, things for like skin cancers and stuff. They're checking their moles, they're feeling their breasts, they're having these procedures done. That has really helped drop down the death rates of cancers. It's a sad thing though. It's you have it from the health insurance perspective of just how expensive it is to get treatments, but we have made some progress, and I'm sure in 10, 20 years will we be even in a better place than we are now.
Hopefully we will be. I'll tell you something interesting. Scott Hamilton, the Olympic gold medalist, had cancer of the testicles, and he made a full recovery. But it was detected because he had a pain when he was doing one of his exercises, his quadruple spin and his flip. And he suddenly felt a sharp pain, went to see the doctor, and they diagnosed it and started treatment immediately, and everything else like that. And he recovered very, very, very well. Never has had any of it since. And this goes back again to the 70s. And I have to also give credit to St. Jude's Research Hospital. I mentioned it before, and I'm just going to highlight it for a second. Danny Thomas was Lebanese, and he had come to the United States. He was born in the United States, but his parents were from Lebanon. And he was basically brought up as an American, okay? But he kept the language, the Lebanese language, as a secondary language. And he decided to become an actor, comedian. And his career wasn't going anywhere. He had two children. Marilyn Thomas is one of them. I forget who the other child was. And he made a vow. He was very Catholic. He made a vow to St. Jude, who's the patron saint of what we call lost causes. In other words, if you have nobody else to turn to, go to St. Jude. And that's what he did. And he made a vow. Now, a vow for a Catholic is a very serious matter. It's basically making a promise to God that if he grants you this favor, you will do something. And it's usually large and monumental. It's not something small. It's not like, I'll say an extra rosary for a week. It's usually big. And he pledged that if he could become a success, he would set up a hospital free of charge for kids with cancer. And he established in, I think it was 1956 or 58. Well, people like Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and other well-known actors at the time actually contributed millions of dollars to make this a reality. And so today, St. Jude still exists. And right now, their survival rate is gone from 1 out of 20 kids dying of cancer, childhood cancers, to 1 out of 5. A tremendous breakthrough. A parent pays nothing. If their child is diagnosed, they're sent to St. Jude's. St. Jude's has housing, provides housing, food, shelter, everything that the parent needs. So the parents can spend all of their time with their child as they're going through these treatments. And it fulfilled the pledge and is probably one of the most comprehensive programs. And what's even more remarkable about St. Jude's, folks, is that they give their research freely. In other words, if they get a grant from the government, they take that research and make it public. It's not like, oh, this is our information, only available to us. They share it with everybody. And they're one of the few organizations in the world that does that. And he fulfilled his vow. And as we all know, he became very successful. Danny Thomas had a television show and became a very well-known comedian, an actor, and fulfilled his pledge. And his daughter, she has continued this, Marlo Thomas, has continued this campaign, raising funds for St. Jude. And if you want to get their financial report, you will find out that 98% of the money that they take in is used for cancer research. Doctors throughout the world who are specialists in cancer apply to work there for drastic reductions in their normal pay. So they're working in many cases for $15, $20 an hour when they could be making $1,000 an hour in private practice. But they're so committed to what this organization has done that they want to be the next Jonas Salk. They want to be the next one to come out with that virus or that pill or that drug that will cure a particular kind of cancer. And that's why they work there. They do it out of love. And it's a remarkable program.
I had to get pizza.
Okay. It's a remarkable program, folks. And if you see the commercial, support them. I think it's something like $19 a month. Well worth it. and they don't waste the money.
What is this for, Bill?
This is St. Jude's Child.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
Right. Started by Danny Thomas. And as I had said earlier, St. Jude is the patron saint of lost causes. In other words, when there's nobody else to pray to, you pray to St. Jude. And as a result of that, he made that vow that if he could become a success as an actor and a comedian, that he would establish this hospital, which of course he did. And he fulfilled his vow and was very proud of it, and we all should be. And by the way, there's another organization I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but it's the Shriners Hospital. They look to other areas of child development, those that have lost limbs, need to learn how to ride a bike, things like that. It's a different organization, but again, the same concept. Either one of them is worthy of support. I support St. Jude's. Okay.
Yeah.
And as I said before, there are people out there today who are alive, and the survival rate now is only 1 out of 5 dies of childhood cancer, when it used to be 1 out of 20. Okay. So they've reduced the odds tremendously. And it's a heartwarming story. You can see it on YouTube. There's a YouTube video in which Danny Thomas talks about his pledge and what he wanted to do. And it's just heartwarming to see that. Along with that, I'm going to mention one other thing, which then I'm going to go back to you, Deb. Luke Perry died. Now, any of you that are old enough to remember 90210 Beverly Hills remembers him as the cool stud in the show. He died at 52 of a massive coronary heart attack. He was with his family and loved ones when he passed away. 52 years old. And I'm grateful for each day that I'm alive. I'm 73, almost 73 and a half. And I'm grateful for every day. But I'm not afraid.
Bill, you're not almost 73 and a half. You just had your birthday in January.
But we're already in March. So
I know, but
fourth.
half would be what? July, June, July.
A fourth. Okay. 73 and a quarter. Will you accept that? Okay. You know,
I suppose.
Okay, go ahead. Take over the show.
We have to talk about Roger Stone because we haven't talked about him.
What do we know about Roger Stone?
Robert Mueller notifies judge that Trump friend Roger Stone posted Instagram image that could violate gag order. Special counsel Robert Mueller notifies a federal judge about an Instagram post by President Donald Trump's friend Roger Stone that could be a violation of the judge's strict gag order on Stone. The filing by Mueller notes CNBC's story on Sunday detailing the post by Stone, which contained an image of him under the words, quote, "Who framed Roger Stone?" He just can't help himself.
No.
I guess he thinks he's going to go to jail, or he gets a pardon or something.
Yeah, he wants a pardon, all right.
Yeah, he'll probably get one, knowing our luck. Let's see what else we get. Nancy Pelosi says Democrats are to introduce a bill to bring back net neutrality this week.
Explain that to everybody so they understand what it is. You know what it is?
Explain what net neutrality is?
Yeah. There may be viewers out there that don't understand what it is.
Essentially, under Obama, the FCC took the position that all internet traffic and access must be equal, meaning certain websites, certain apps, certain connections all had to go at the same speed and couldn't be sort of throttled in any way.
Right.
that all internet traffic was neutral, and it didn't matter what you paid. It didn't matter where you were accessing it from. It was just all neutral. Under Trump FCC, they got rid of that, meaning essentially cable companies now, it's not treated like a public utility, although it should be. It's, that they could prioritize specific apps, specific websites, etc., and allow them to have a fast lane, and then some things have a slow lane that they can charge as much as they want. And one of another big issue, net neutrality aside, is the lack of competition in this country, is especially in more rural areas where you'll have a single internet company, a single internet provider, and that's it. And if you don't like them or they're too expensive, tough cookies. There ain't no other one there. And so one of the things we've seen over the years is companies like Google were trying to get into the internet business, and they were offering really good speeds, really good service for a really affordable price. And they were doing a slow rollout, which they have now since stopped, because what they wanted, it's exorbitantly expensive for any company to come in and do all of their own pipes and connections. So they wanted to go to the existing pipes that were already there and say, hey, can we sort of, put our wires and our connections through that existing thing, and deliver our service through that? And they were told no. So it made any type of expansion to other cities impossible, essentially. It would have just been too expensive.
Right.
So we need to fix access. We need to have more competition. And we need to make sure that in the eyes of the internet company, that all traffic in and out is neutral, period.
Well, here's something. This is not a new idea, folks. There's an organization called the WPA, and the Rural Electrification Program was designed to provide people in farm countries large areas that were basically not being treated. And the WPA was established to provide electricity to those people at a reasonable price. And if it hadn't been for that under Roosevelt, these small communities would never have had electricity. And we take it for granted. But there were areas that didn't have electricity because it was too expensive to go to, say, for instance, Chicago, and to go 35 miles away from Chicago into a rural town and give them electrical power. And some of these small towns remain small. They couldn't grow. I mean, in our history, the railroad was monumental in establishing the validity, the viability of a community. If a railroad came through your town, it meant that you were thriving and it was a good service. But a lot of times they pulled out because there wasn't enough business. And as a result of that, it was detrimental. So this idea of net neutrality, this idea of having some kind of equal basis for everybody, it's amazing because the internet companies charge, like for instance, I have 100 meg, supposedly 100 meg download, okay, 10 meg upload. Now, the problem is you can measure it out, okay, but you're never going to get 100 meg, okay? You're just not going to get it, even though they're telling you you're paying for it. The cost to Spectrum is something like $1 for every 10 megs. So it costs them $10 to provide me with 100 meg speed. That's their cost. but they're charging me $50 or $60 a month to give me that service. So obviously, they're making a lot of money on services that are overpriced. And that's where the government is saying, look, you can't do that. And then they run into the argument of free enterprise. Okay, what right does the government have to come and regulate your business? So I would like to see the net neutrality reestablished. It was done by executive order by Donald Trump, reversing Barack Obama.
No, it was voted on by the FCC because he appointed more Republicans than Democrats.
Oh, okay.
I think there's 5 people on that, and I think it was 3-2.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It should be reinstated.
Well, we'll see what happens. Talk about the 81 names.
Oh yeah, that's something you got, right, Bill? You got the coverage on that one?
Well, I don't have the names, but the Democrats, the House Oversight Committee, sent 81 letters out to just about everybody in the Trump administration, past, present, and future, including the Trump family. And
yeah, I mean, I know some of the names. Obviously, the Trump Jr. is on there. Don McGahn, who is the ex-attorney for the White House. John Kelly is on there. Alan Weisenberg, who is the CFO of Trump Organizations, on there. There's a whole bunch of people.
Okay, OTC, Cohn's supposed to testify Wednesday. From what we understand, it may be closed. They haven't said whether it's going to be open or closed, so we don't know. But you're right, in the sense that this thing is expanding more and more because, and it's all Donald's doings. I mean, this is not a vendetta. Okay, this is just simply saying, look, we've got to know what's going on from these people.
Wait, who are we talking about? His attorney again?
No, we were talking about Cohn. Michael Cohn is coming back.
Yeah, his ex-attorney. Yeah, I thought that was supposed to be closed.
The rumor is that it's going to be closed, but it's supposed to be for Wednesday.
The only reason I say that is okay. So somebody brought it up on Twitter, and I totally agree with it. Let me bring up the tweet so I don't misquote it or anything.
While you're doing that, I got somebody knocking at my door quietly. I think it's my next door neighbor. So if you will be kind enough to excuse me as I go off camera and get over to the door, I've got to move some chairs around to get off camera. So
right,
bear with me, keep the conversation going, and enlighten everybody as to everything you're doing, which is a superb job, as always. You'll see an increase in your paycheck from 0 to 0.0001. So make sure you enjoy spending the extra money.
Well, I'm rich now. OTC.
Well, you got to be good to him because OTC has been looking for your job. In fact, OTC told me, hey, I could do it for less. Go ahead. Go ahead and talk. I'm getting to the door. Go ahead and talk.
I don't have anything to talk about, Bill. We gotta wait till you're back. Anyway, let me find that tweet. I can look that up right now.
Yeah, okay. Thanks. Thank you, sir.
How you doing, OTC? Yeah, I'm good too, OTC. I don't know where Bill went. I think he went to answer the door. Takes him forever to go answer the door.
Yes.
Also, his flag's cut off again.
Rockabye baby on the tree.
Oh, he's back.
I'm back.
Where? Who was at the door, Bill?
Huh?
Who was at the door?
My next door neighbor.
I
told him if he came back in, he'd have to shut up and sit down and say nothing. He said, just wanted to let you know that I may stop by tomorrow. I said, thanks for the warning.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
anyway, I found that tweet I was talking about.
Okay.
It says if House Democrats are serious about oversight of Trump, they will retain counsel to ask the first 2 hours of questions of each witness. Endless, uncoordinated, 5-minute show of rounds are not designed to find the truth.
Very true.
And it goes on to say, if I said to a client, quote, my 2-hour plan for examining the other side's key witness is to have 24 lawyers question her for 5 minutes each, that would be a former client. Even before I said they would not pay any attention to each other's questions or the answers. Most members of Congress do not have the time to prepare adequately and to be able to revise their questions to follow up on responses.
Then why did we elect them?
Well, I mean, they're not only there for that specific thing is their point. The model is the Watergate hearings where litigator and GT law professor Sam Dash questioned each witness for at least an hour before handing over the questioning to Senator Sam Irvine and his colleagues. Before Irvine cared about finding out what happened more than occupying TV time. Because Irvine, which is true. And I think a lot of people have been saying that these 5-minute little question things, that it's not working. They need to have talented prosecutors up there answering the question, asking and answering, any type of, debate back and forth for at least first 2 hours.
Well, what I think they should do is they should give a senator or a House of Representatives 5 minutes and then turn it over to the prosecutor and say, and then the prosecutor will go over what they may have said. Okay, and follow through. Remember the Republicans tried to do that? Who was the witness that they had there?
That was Brett Kavanaugh, and it was so effective that they had to tell her to stop.
Mm-hmm.
They hired that. She was from Arizona, the woman. She was a female prosecutor who had a long history of prosecuting sort of sexual assault cases.
Right.
And it was going well initially, and then it was his turn, and sort of the questions she was asking him, they stopped it. They derailed it. But it's proof positive that is an effective way to handle this, and I think they need to do it.
Well, partly because a prosecutor and a defense attorney are trained to listen to what you say and then follow up with another question. Well, Mr. Jones, you say that you have 20/20 vision, but why do you wear glasses? Well, I wear glasses because it looks cool. Oh, so these are not prescription glasses. Correct. Oh, okay. Can you read the sign in the back? Just a moment. And they put their glasses on. And it's like, but I thought you didn't need your glasses to read the sign. You see, that's what I'm talking about. You need people that can follow up and say, something's wrong here. Okay?
Yeah.
You don't go out buying glasses if you don't need them.
Let's hope they're listening and they make that change.
Well, I'll tell you something was also interesting. I was involved in a court litigation case, and this guy is on the witness stand, and he's made through his attorney a lot of statements that I did this, I said this, and on and on and on and on. And finally, my attorney, stands up and he says, Mr. So-and-so, and by the way, when we went back into court after the recess, he says to me, Bill, sit at the end of the table, not next to me. And he took his law clerk and put his law clerk next to him. Now, normally the defense, the witness, the one that's being charged, usually sits next to the lawyer. I mean, that's normal. So I'm at the end of the table. So he looks at this witness and he says to the witness, would you be kind enough to point out the gentleman that made all of these statements to you? He says, oh, no problem. It's the man sitting next to your chair. He goes, all right, let the record show that the witness has identified my law clerk. The defendant is at the end of the table. Would you please stand up and identify yourself? And I stood up and gave my name. The judge looks at the guy on the witness stand. He looks at the attorney and he says to the attorney, who was a female, he says, ma'am, you're a disgrace to the Bar Association. You put a witness on who made a bunch of statements that Mr. So-and-so stated these things to him. And this guy has never met him. He couldn't even identify him. And right away, the judge stood there and he said, case dismissed. Fine for the defense. And then my lawyer said, Your Honor, what about the countersuit? He said, granted. And it was a $50,000 lawsuit in damages against the guy. So we got $50,000 out of the thing, which we never collected. The guy was 78 years old. I didn't have the heart to take us home away from him. Okay. And everything else like that. But when he was asked under cross-examination, who helped you with this information? He said, well, my son told me all these things. He said, your son. And the son had worked for me. So he said, everything you know was never from the defendant. It was from your son who told you the defendant said this. He goes, yes, Your Honor. He goes, good. So he then charged the son, okay, with contempt of court and fined him $10,000 and said, by the way, I understand that you passed all 4 parts of the CPA exam in one sitting, which is phenomenal. And this son, only goal in life was to become a CPA. Now, he needed 2 years of practical experience. And that was one of the reasons I hired him, because he would have gotten, if he stayed with us, 2 years of practical experience and then could have put his CPA shingle out. Okay? So the judge looked at him and he said, sir, because of the court finding, you are now a felon. I'm going to waive putting you in prison on probation, but you'll still pay the $10,000 fine. If you don't pay it in 3 years, you're going to go to prison. Well, he paid it in 3 years to the court, didn't go to prison. But to this day, he has never been able to put the C and the P and the A after his name. And that's like telling a patient who's waiting for a heart transplant, guess what? You ain't getting one. You're going to die. Okay. That was the worst news that kid could have ever gotten. And to this day, he's never been able to reverse it. He's never been able to practice as a CPA. All he's been able to do is be a PA, which is a public accountant, which anybody with an accounting degree can do. You don't even need an accounting degree. So there is justice there somewhere. Okay. So whatever. But
that's how Bill fought the law and the Bill won.
Yeah. I mean, there are times when people happen, and this is part of experience. So when someone comes up to me and says, oh, this is not true, or that's not true, or that can't happen, or the court doesn't, it's like, wait a minute, let me go into my archives. Okay. And, any number of times something similar has happened. And you come back. And especially when Donald was, on the rise in the 70s. At that time, I got Business Week every week, and so on Thursday nights was kind of my make phone calls for the appointments for the next week. So I would do that, and then I would go over to the Statler Hotel, which was right next door to us, and they had a lunch counter that was open 24/7, and I would get a bowl of chili and a grilled cheese with raw onion on it, because I wasn't going anywhere but home. And I would sit there and read the Business Week. And it was always an article about Trump's in trouble here, Trump's in trouble there. They're bringing this suit against him. He's in this litigation, that litigation. So that's where I learned a lot about Donald Trump and his corruption. And you got to remember, I lived in Cleveland. Donald was nobody in Cleveland. Nobody cared about him. Only New York City did. So when I heard Donald say some of these things when he was running for president, I go, what are you talking about, Donald? That's not true. It's a lie. And then as you went back in his history, you found out he lied a lot, including, I only got $1 million from my dad and I paid it back. When in reality, he actually got $45 million through some questionable tax dodges. But so much for that. 5 senators have switched over, saying that they will support the House bill, saying that the president doesn't have the right, to create a national emergency. Now the question is, Trump has said, I'm going to veto it. We all know he's going to. The question is, will it go through? Okay. Will it happen? I doubt if there'll be enough senators with backbone, Republicans, who will have courage to join the other 5 and come up with 13 and override the veto. I don't think so. Paul Ryan does. Well, hopefully he'll be right. Maybe he can talk to some of these other Republicans and say, look.
Yeah, I read that OTC. Rand Paul says he's got like 10 people or something like that privately agree that it's not a good thing. But so how many would that be? What Democrats have? What, 47.
47 plus the two independents. So 49.
Plus the web bill.
They have Bernie Sanders, which is an independent, but he always votes with the Democrats. So basically 47.
Okay. So 47 plus 10 would only be what, 57. So that's still short of the 67 that they need.
Right. But
whatever it is, 2/3 majority.
Right. But right now they're talking about needing only 5 to get the resolution passed.
Yes, to get to
Trump,
51 votes.
Right. So
that's
Trump
3 plus 2, so that's 51. Yes,
so
which is fine to pass it, but to make it veto proof, you need 68.
That 67.
67.
Yeah. Well, maybe there'll be some other Republicans that will say, "Look, we're done." I mean,
maybe, but 20 of them, I doubt it.
Well, you know, miracles do happen. I think that what's happening is that the Republicans are beginning to say, look, we backed this guy. We've seen all of these atrocities. And at what point do we continue to support this man without saying to ourselves, this is wrong? Do we have any moral fiber ourselves? They won't ever come to that
conclusion, Bill.
Huh?
They won't come to that conclusion.
Well, only God knows.
They're too far in. They're too bought in. They've invested too much.
Well,
they're just going to ride it out now.
You never know.
True, you don't.
Miracles do happen. Okay. Maybe what we need is Donald to threaten them all and say, listen, if you don't vote for it, you know, I'm going to send my henchmen out and break your legs. Oh, I didn't say that. I never said that in a tweet. You misinterpreted it. I said that if you had universal health care or if you got rid of Obamacare, then if you broke your legs for some accident that I don't know anything about, you'd be covered. But since you went for Obamacare, you're not protected. So that's what I really meant when I said that you might have your legs broken. You know, I mean, that's the way Donald spins everything.
I think that's good. I think we covered everything, Bill.
I think we did too. All right. Well, listen, folks, I'm sure we'll be on Wednesday night with more crime, more, you know, finagling, more miscalculations.
Plus, of course, as we always say is if there's ever breaking news, we'll come on.
That's true. Thank you, by the way, OTC, for your show of support. We realize it and everything else like that. So until Wednesday night, we say peace and take care, everybody, and have a good week. I'm sure there'll be a lot of explosions going on in Washington, and it won't be a snowstorm. Okay? So have peace. Good night. Thanks, everybody, for your support. Bye-bye.